You're listening to WRHU Radio, here with your host, Gary Duff, on 88.7 FM. The new movie, Atlas Shrugged Part 1, came out just a few weeks ago, and we're joined by Harmon Kaslow, its producer. Harmon, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for asking. Now, I've been reading from different sources that the movie production team, all the directors and whatnot, that team was put together in 6 hours. Is that true?
It was put together in a very short and compressed period of time. John Aglioloro, the other producer, he acquired the rights to the project about 18 years ago. At a point in time, actually, when there had been a survey that indicated that Atlas Shrugged, for those people surveyed, was the second most influential book in their life, right behind the Bible. So he had expected, a Hollywood studio would jump at the opportunity, to produce this film. Despite all of his efforts securing directors, actors, 6 different screenplays, if he didn't get the project into production by June of 2010, he would lose those rights. He and I met in April of 2010, and it was really a mad scramble to get all the elements and everything together between April and June when we started production of the picture.
Angelina Jolie was also interested in trying to jump onto the movie. Whatever happened to that, and what differentiated this project from the Lion Gates one?
Well, first off, the actress that we cast, Taylor Schilling, is just incredible. People have complimented us not only on the choice, but about her performance. She's really incredibly powerful as Dagny Taggart. With respect to anyone that had been, attached to the project prior to, our coming on, there's a lot of things need to happen for a movie to get green-lighted and funded by a studio to go into production. And, it could be factors such as approving the director or approving the screenplay or doing, any number of items, someone's availability. And so, with respect to Lionsgate or any actresses that had been, previously attached, those pieces just simply did not come together in a timely fashion. So, John Aglioloro really had no choice but to kind of follow the theme of the book, which is in the spirit of individualism, just go forward, put up his own money, and make the film the way that he saw it should be completed.
Now, you mentioned different actresses. Would you be able to tell us who was involved with certain projects?
Well, yeah. It's well known that a number of major, actresses had either expressed an interest or, had been contacted or, conditionally committed to the project. So that, would include Angelina Jolie, Charlize Theron, Farrah Fawcett, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Julia Roberts. There's a number of major actresses. What people should understand is that the lead character in Atlas Shrugged is a woman. She is the hero. Her name is Dagny Taggart. She's smart, attractive, courageous, working against lazy businessmen and bureaucrats, getting things done, and really just showing kind of the level of tenacity, the amount of hard work that is necessary, along with self-reliance, to get on the road to happiness and success.
Now, this book is a massive book, and you mentioned moving it towards this big screen. Did you have any problems with that? It's over 1,000 pages. Right.
The book, first off, the book was written more than 50 years ago, in 1957, okay? And in the past few years, been selling hundreds of thousands of copies. In addition, the Ayn Rand Institute provides free copies to learning institutions that request them. So that accounts for another 300,000. So somewhere between 800 and 900,000 copies of this book being sold every year. The book itself is split into 3 parts. We simply filmed the first part. It sets an excellent context for the story. We also get into some explanation about who is John Galt, which is a very well-known slogan. So if you haven't read the book, the movie still is a very entertaining and educational and inspirational event. If you have read the book, you'll be able to sort of follow along and see how we have cinematically interpreted Ayn's work.
So how close is the book to the movie?
Well, we had two goals when we started out. Our first goal was to make certain that we produced a movie that would be accepted by the literary and political fan base of the book. And then our second goal was to create something that was accessible to millions of people and highly entertaining. So, we set out to make what we kind of call a faithful adaptation of the book, which really means that we haven't reimagined anything in the book. We simply grabbed the scenes. We've taken a little bit of creative license with some of those particular scenes to get them to flow into the length of time we have for the movie. And whenever possible, we tried to use the actual dialogue directly from the book so that we could give life to words that people have read at various points in their life when they were reading the book.
You're listening to WRHU Radio, here with your host, Gary Duff, on 88.7 FM. And we're joined by Harmon Kaslow, the producer of the movie Atlas Shrugged Part 1. Now, Harmon, I got a chance to talk to Brian O'Toole, who was your screenwriter, and he was talking about the opening scene to the movie. It's a little different than the book. Who decided to do that scene?
Various activities going on in the opening of the movie. The most significant and foundational is the conversation that's occurring among three of the main characters in the movie. Ellis Wyatt, who's a Renaissance man, Wesley Mausch, who is a lobbyist and then becomes a bureaucrat, and then James Taggart, which is really just kind of a lazy businessman who really relies on the government to help his business sustain itself. And so that was really the creation of John Aglioloro, the other screenwriter of the project. And then what we needed to do was set some sort of foundation for the story. I mean, when you have a book, you can, really, the author can take her time, setting out the setting and introduce characters whenever the author deems them necessary, give more description about the environment whenever the author deems it necessary. For a movie, you really have to set a foundation. And that's really what the first 8 or 9 minutes of the movie tries to accomplish, to give people a sense of the world that we live in, the status of the economy, and then who some of the major characters in the movie are.
Now, John Aglioloro came out and said to the critics, you've won the battle. Talking in regards to parts 2 and 3, are we going to see a part 2 and 3?
No, of course. I mean, I think that we are committed to fighting on. We are not going to be stopped by the critics. We're not going to be stopped by mainstream media that has refused to run our ad. Now, we don't know the reason why they are not running our television ad. They simply told us that it was rejected for editorial content reasons. Those two factions of the media are not going to stop. In fact, we had a very successful opening of the movie. It's now in its third week. And I can tell you that I've seen the numbers for this weekend, and we have stabilized, and the movie really is bringing in a fair-sized audience, and I think it's going to be in the theaters for quite some period of time. So I think that we have been under attack really from the outset. And I just think it took its toll on John, and he needed to respond, but we're certainly not going to stop our fight, and we're certainly not going to be stopped by the critics.
Now, your opening weekend, it grossed around $2 million. How much has the movie grossed over these few weeks?
Well, it's up to nearly $4 million at this point. So there's an enormous amount of exuberance and interest in the movie. We actually think a large part of the audience, believe it or not, were persuaded to stay away from the movie due to what the critics are saying. And if people would look at the disconnect between what the critics and how they have blasted the picture, and then if you look at what people who have paid $10 who have seen the movie and how they rate the movie, and this is in the thousands upon thousands of people, they all rate it as, well, not all, but nearly all rate it as a must-see. So right now we're experiencing some excellent word of mouth, people who are not going to be persuaded by a third party trying to make a judgment on what they should be seeing in the theaters, people who believe in individual liberty and limited government. They're the ones that are coming to the movies now, and many of them are coming for 2 or 3 times. So that just indicates how they're responding to the movie and how much they enjoy it.
Now, what interest do you see in the critics deriding the movie and pushing it down?
Well, I think that they have their own agenda. And I think that this gives them an opportunity to instill that agenda into their work. Many of them are not familiar with the book. Some who are familiar with the book don't believe in the book. Some of the critics, have even come out and said that they're socialists. And this book is anti-socialist. This book is about individualism, not about collectivism. So, we thought it would be disingenuous for us to not allow anyone who wanted to review and critique the film to do so. They certainly had a right to do. What we didn't expect was just how much they would attack the film, how much they would try to scare people away from seeing the film, how much sort of lack of objectivity seems to come out in their reviews of the film to try to keep people from seeing it. I mean, the message obviously is very powerful. They must have felt that the message was powerful, and therefore, felt like they needed to say whatever they could to discourage people from wanting to see the film. That hasn't denied a good portion of the population, and it certainly hasn't denied, the literary fans of the book. We've gotten reports, for example, where economics teachers, history teachers, literature teachers are offering extra credit to their students if they go and see it. Some of them are seeing it as part of their curriculum. There is something to be learned from the book and the movie, and nobody should be discouraged from seeing anything based on a third party's judgment. They should just make that judgment themselves.
Now, the critics seem to be an obvious roadblock. Was there any roadblock with the budget? It was a $10 million budget.
No, I mean, it wasn't. There wasn't a lack of resources to, produce the movie to a level of quality that we thought would be, acceptable. And so we just didn't have to throw money. And the crowd that we got, the crew that we got was just simply fantastic. And most worked for minimum wage and did an exceptional job. I mean, the opportunity to be part of the legacy, in a sense, part of the DNA of Atlas Shrugged, the movie, was very tempting to a lot of people. And it took a lot of courage for them to participate in the film. And, I think that we got twice the value for the money that we put in it. It really isn't about how much is spent. It really is, when you go in there, people come out saying, wow, it looks like a $50-60 million film. So, we were just able to spend the limited resources we had very intelligently, and I think that nobody is sort of badmouthed the film because they thought the production values were low.
Now, how does it feel to have your work on screen?
Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding? This is, an opportunity of a lifetime. I mean, to be attached to this book, having done this film, it is, first off, incredibly humbling. And at the same time, it's just a phenomenal honor. And I really look forward to, parts 2 and 3. And John has even mentioned perhaps going back and doing a 12-part miniseries where we literally film every scene in the movie. Every scene in the book, so that, as a television miniseries, people can really experience the entire book cinematically.
What do you hope people take away from this movie?
Well, I mean, the message of the book and the message of the film are pretty simple. I mean, it's we should love our lives, we shouldn't sacrifice our values, and we should respect the rights of the individual against government socialization. And that's really, that's the message. It comes through, and it's a very positive and inspiring one.
Harmon Kaslow, producer of the new movie Atlas Shrugged Part 1. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And again, send your listeners to atlasshruggedpart1.com if they have any information.